So joining us live now for a daily analysis of the federal election race is CTV News' political commentator, Scott Reid. Good to see you, Scott.
Morning, guys.
All right, so the horse race, Scott, it's turning into a much more one-sided race than I think many have expected just 2 weeks ago, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we are effectively 2 weeks into this race. This weekend marks the two-week point. And with Trump's tariff announcements behind us, and although, as we heard from Paul and Courtney, the markets are still in turmoil, and we know we're going to hear about more reprisals from the likes of China and India and others, there has to be a hope, if you're the Conservatives, that there's a fresh start, that we're entering a new phase, that that you can try to turn this campaign back towards something that's more competitive, refocusing it away from Trump and on pocketbook issues like cost of living, like how are we going to keep our economy strong, how are we going to deal with economic threats, and that it's not just about sitting near the television and watching Prime Minister Carney respond with calm and collected manner to the threat of Donald Trump. The Conservatives have got to make these next few days a time where they move and they march. This is their opening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really is go time, because the lead of 10 points and then the preferred prime minister at a 20-point lead, as we just saw in our Nanos research polling. Scott, when it comes to other things that we're looking at, I mean, we're expected to get latest job numbers from Statistics Canada. We know that Pierre Poilievre talked about removing the GST off vehicles. What can he do there? Is there anything else he can kind of capitalize with his message now that he's kind of finally shifting more towards Trump?
Sort of all of that. He is making much more direct focus on Trump himself. And I think there's a couple of things. I'd be watching for advertising. And they have got to find a way to knock down that number that Nick just told us about Mark Carney. I mean, if your opponent at near the mid-mark of the campaign is 20 points preferred over you as prime minister, that is a giant, giant problem. Mm-hmm. So watch to see if the Conservatives really take the lumber out. If we get some negative ads, trained and focused hard on Mark Carney, trying to bring him down to earth a little bit. And then, as you mentioned, maybe without the daily carnage of Trump, possibly the Conservatives can turn the issue set back to, well, how do we cut taxes? How do we relieve some of the burden? And maybe all of this economic threat and uncertainty that's been triggered by the trade war causes people to say, well, maybe I am going to be looking even more for a leader who will promise me to unbuckle the burden on me financially. So that's got to be the play for the Conservatives. But one challenge I would highlight is that the Conservatives must knock Mark Carney back to earth. As long as he soars 20 points above the all his political opponents, he's going to be damned hard to beat.
Okay, but Scott, if Donald Trump goes quiet, and that's a huge if, as we well know, because he doesn't like to be quiet. If he does, how do the Liberals kind of keep his name prominent? Because that really seems to be the playbook for the Liberals is we're going after Trump, we're dealing with tariffs, we're dealing with Trump, I'm the best person or I'm the best leader to do that. How do they keep that, fresh if Donald Trump does sort of go a little more quiet?
Yeah, I think you're going to see probably a little bit more policy from the Liberals over the course of the next week. And that should be, if they're smart, trained around these kinds of questions. How do you knit together internal trade barriers so that we can make things less expensive on ourselves? How do you make certain that people are well trained? How do you make certain that people are protected? What are you going to do in terms of industries and employers and making certain that the government is there to protect them so that they don't lay off tons of people? I think you'll see the Liberals try to concentrate on those issues. And I do think that they expect that Trump will barge back into the picture next week. There's still the threat of additional tariffs that are sector specific. They're talking about things like pharmaceuticals as an example. Well, I got to tell you, where's the pharmaceutical industry located, right? The generic industry is located in Toronto and the innovative industry is located in Montreal. Those are rich seat areas, Montreal, Quebec, and obviously Toronto, GTA here in Ontario. So you'll see them focusing on reacting to that. But I do think we're going to see a slightly different phase. And one thing I would point out to people, watch not just what the leaders do and what the leaders say, but watch the advertising. People are going to unleash, those campaigns are going to unleash their spending on one another. That's going to be interesting to watch.
Okay, so much to watch for. And of course, we'll see if the Liberals can carry this momentum up until April 28th. CTV's political commentator, Scott Reid, has been a busy first 2 weeks on the campaign trail. Thanks for joining us. We'll chat again next week.
Have a good one, Scott.
Have a good weekend, guys.